Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning. Yes, this is Racing Across America, and I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning, day after some more great racing. We've been saying since the Belmont Stakes. Belmont's over. Everybody starts thinking Saratoga, but I've said right along, there's a good stretch of racing in between the end of the Belmont, that end of the Belmont Stakes, and the opening day at Saratoga. And yesterday certainly demonstrated that in New York and some of the other venues as well. We will look at some of those stakes races from yesterday. If we get a chance, we'll do a little handicapping. Have a number of stakes, though. That may take up much of the opening. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be joined by Bob Ehalt. Bob was down in New York. He covers New York racing for the Blood Horse. You can also find Bob's work on America's Best Racing. But he was in New York yesterday for the Dwyer and the Nehru. And so we'll save those replays for a little bit later on. A couple of nice performances there. And as I've been saying, really for the last few weeks, with some of the stakes action we've watched throughout the country, they're notable to us because the performers many of them will likely be seen right up the street at Saratoga in a few weeks. And I don't think yesterday was any exception. I think some of the nice performances from the various venues will play out up the Northway in just a few weeks up at Saratoga. Speaking of Saratoga, I've mentioned it the last few days, but I want to keep reminding people so when you tune in, you're kind of aware. Television-wise, it's that time of year. We usually have kind of a 5-day break or whatever between winding up here in the studio and firing things up at Saratoga. And this year is the same, so I'll just alert you after this morning's show. We will start unplugging all the equipment, the cameras, and pack up the tripods and the monitors and whatnot, and everything gets moved up to our set on Clare Court on the backstretch in Saratoga. And we will be back. We'll fire things up and do a little dry run, make sure everything's plugged in correctly next Saturday morning. We'll have handicapper support and some racing discussion Saturday morning live from Saratoga. So again, just about a week away. Then that following Wednesday, we'll be back the day before Saratoga just to kind of kick things off as well. And then that Thursday, again, about a week and a half away at this point, Saratoga opening day, and we will be live from the track. And remind people, again, if you're in the area and you're a racing fan and you've been here a while, but the folks who may not be aware, the morning programming here has been appreciated by horse racing fans for years and years, the programming here on Capital OTB TV. And I say that not patting myself on the back because I'm going back to when I was a fan watching. And, you had Mark and Mike and Tom and Nick, various other hosts throughout the years up at Saratoga doing handicapping and the interview programs as well. But the beauty of it, and now I've been able to experience it for a number of years myself, and it's, on this side of things, it's just a lot of fun to be there because, as I always put it, all the biggest names in horse racing are literally a golf cart ride away. And as we're doing our shows in the morning, the golf carts pull in front of our tent, and out hop some of the biggest names in horse racing: trainers, jockeys, industry types, some of the folks from NYRA, certainly. And we should, as I talk about Saratoga, I shouldn't forget to thank NYRA for their hospitality, hosting us on the backstretch every year. We really appreciate it. Also, national racing media types, obviously, are regulars with us as well. And it's a lot of fun for me, and hopefully that then translates to a lot of fun for you. We want to make it entertaining, informative, and I think given who shows up, that's pretty easy to do. And the feedback I subsequently get when I'm on the front side all summer long is very positive, and we really appreciate that. And I come back and pass it on to the guys in the control room and whatnot, so we'd like to hear all the comments you make. And as I say, we appreciate the kind words that I typically get on pretty much a daily basis, a number of times up there. But everything kicks off, as I say, a week from yesterday. We'll kind of kick things off up at Saratoga. But I note that because with all the equipment moving up there and plugging things in and whatnot, no OTB Live this upcoming week, so keep that in mind. I'll be sitting on the beach in Maine a little bit later today, hopefully, for a few days. So just unwind for a little bit, and then 40 days of really good racing and hopefully really, really good programming as well. But we'll wrap up our in-studio with a typical Sunday morning here on Racing Across America, looking at some of the stakes action from yesterday. And again, it was notable stakes action with horses that are worth paying attention to because they'll be up at Saratoga. And we will start out with one of those because it sounds like Olympiad potentially will be pointed towards the Whitney. Yesterday, Stephen Foster. Interesting field. I liked Olympiad, but how would Mandaloon do? Faltered in Saudi Arabia. Brad Cox was happy with the training, though, coming into the Foster. I was very intrigued to see if American Revolution would rebound. I liked American Revolution in the Blame last time. It was a seasonal debut off a pretty long layoff. Won the Cigar Mile in December, and then he came back in June in the Blame and ran fourth. So American Revolution was interesting to watch yesterday with a question mark hovering over the four-year-old season after the seasonal debut. I also thought Caddo River could be intriguing coming out of a triple-digit buyer win in an optional claimer. So it was a fun field, and it played out kind of the way I thought, at least on the front end, with Olympiad getting it done. And kind of threatening here is American Revolution. So I think in his second start of the four-year-old season, he did kind of bounce back. But as you can see, he threatened momentarily, and then Olympiad kind of moved away. Proxy runs third. Mandaloon disappoints and runs fourth. Caddo River is sixth in the field of seven. Brad Cox subsequently was quoted, was disappointed with both of those performances because he thought Mandaloon was coming in training well. And he said, Caddo River probably isn't up to grade 2 company at this point. This was a pretty salty grade 2, though, I will say. Olympiad comes out of the race with a 111 buyer, which is a lifetime best buyer for Olympiad. He also comes out of the race now with a 5-race win streak. So that's a little bit impressive as well. If you remember, he was in that kooky race last summer with Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda tossed in that triple-digit buyer, and then Baby Yoda kind of didn't really live up to that. Olympiad was second in that race, and that was the third start of his career, but he also ran a triple-digit buyer, finishing behind Yoda there that day. And then he came out of the race, won an allowance, ran fourth behind American Revolution in the Cigar Mile. And so you're kind of thinking, boy, maybe that Baby Yoda race was just really fluky. But after that, he, as I say, has now ripped off 5 straight, including the Foster yesterday, big win prior to that in the Ali Sheba, a nice win in the New Orleans Classic and the Mine Shaft down at the fairgrounds. So he came out of that Baby Yoda race. And then the immediate subsequent races left a little bit of a question mark, but now he is kind of, Olympiad has proven himself to be worthy of the triple-digit buyer he fired that day up at Saratoga. And this was now the 5th in a series of triple-digit buyers, as well as the 5th victory. Mandaloon, again, a little bit disappointing. Caddo River, very disappointing. But American Revolution, going to be interesting to see what he does now in the next start, and if he can continue that nice progression, because he certainly that was an improved effort yesterday for him off of the seasonal debut. So I thought the first 2 were worthwhile. Clearly Olympiad, but it was a nice rebound for American Revolution. And as I say, game plan from reading post-race comments seems like the Whitney could be in the future for Olympiad. Also on the card yesterday at Churchill was the Kelly's Landing. I had Joe Christofek on yesterday, and we were talking about all of these stakes races, and I had mentioned, I looked at Aloha West, and I thought, my first inclination was, I'm not thrilled with last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint winner. We showed that race yesterday, and that was a very nice win, certainly. But subsequently, the two comeback races to start this season weren't quite as inspiring. But I did note he finished behind Jackie's Warrior and Flightline. So maybe you could forgive those a little bit. I wound up doing that and putting Aloha West on top. But then Joe and I were talking, and Bango coming out of a win in the Aristides. 13 starts before yesterday, 13 starts at Churchill, 7 wins. So Bango for Greg Foley was intriguing as well. But it was Aloha West. And it's going to wind up to be kind of a ding-dong battle here. Aloha West at 4-5 is the number 4 horse. Miles Ahead, the number 9, 15-1, runs second. Knee Deep in Snow runs third. Bango disappoints running fourth in here, the number 5 horse. But you can see just grinding, but not able to get up to Aloha West. Miles Ahead, again at 15-1. Nice performance from that horse, but again, just couldn't get to Aloha West, who ran very well in the third start back and rebounded nicely from the first couple of starts, which, as I say, were maybe a little bit disappointing this year, but they were behind some monsters. So Aloha West back on the winning track. We'll see where he goes next. Miles Ahead had a triple-digit buyer back in February to win the Gulfstream Park Sprint. A couple of starts since then weren't as good, but you could have looked at that one and thought, 15-1 odds are kind of attractive if you did and played a little exacta. The exacta wasn't bad, but the 4-5 favorite on top and Miles Ahead got $42 in the exacta. Again, if you look back and you saw that triple digit and you thought, at the odds, I could play around with that. I did not have Miles Ahead in my mix. I like Bango. I did like Knees Deep in Snow, who ran third. I had that one in the third spot. Thought Bob's Edge might be a little bit interesting. That one disappointed a little bit, but no disappointment from Aloha West, getting it done at 4-5 in the Kelly's Landing yesterday at Churchill Downs. One of 5 stakes on the card yesterday, also the Florida Lee for the Fillies and Mares going 1 1/8 miles. This for me, this was a little bit of a disappointing performance because I have liked Pauline's Pearl for a while now. I liked her in the La Troyenne. I kind of liked her in the Azeri, where she finished behind Cece, and we'll see Cece a little bit later on. And I definitely liked her in the Shawnee in the prior start, where she disappointed and ran 4th. But 2 starts back in the La Troyenne, she had won over She Dares the Devil. And as I say, I've liked her for a while, and so I put Pauline's Pearl on top, She Dares the Devil right underneath. And I thought and mentioned Super Quick was interesting because it's one of those horses that it's just fun to watch what's going to happen here, because last time out tossed a triple-digit buyer victory at Pimlico in a graded stakes race on Preakness weekend, and it just jumped off the page. Triple digit is much better than the horse had ever done before. So is it just a fluke, or was Super Quick that good? Well, I think off of what we saw yesterday, maybe Super Quick is that good. Super Quick went out, and in the short field of 5, Super Quick, the number 1 horse, has the lead, and She Dares the Devil is number 5, and it looks like Super Quick might have enough to hold her off here, and then it becomes a little bit of a ding-dong battle, but in the end, She Dares the Devil does pull away to a length and 3/4 victory. Number 4 is Pauline's Pearl, and she just never was a threat here, which was a little bit disappointing to me. I mean, you can lose the race, but as I say, she wasn't a threat there, and she was, 5 lengths back via the chart. And Pauline's Pearl, both Pauline's Pearl and She Dares the Devil went off at 7-5, but given the money in the pool, Pauline's Pearl was slightly the favorite in there. So again, it was a little bit disappointing, her 3rd place finish, but it was certainly a very nice win for She Dares the Devil. Brad Cox trainee, now 10 wins and 20 starts. With yesterday's purse, she is approaching $3 million. So nice little 5-year-old mare that has had just a really, really nice career. We're looking at 20 starts and 18 in the money finishes, the 10 wins, 3 seconds, 5 thirds. So she's a very, very nice performer. And it was a nice race yesterday. As I say, it looked like Super Quick was maybe going to have enough there to hold on, but She Dares the Devil just proved to be too good in the Fleur-de-Lis yesterday. The American Derby, we'll watch the Dwyer a little bit later on, and I said, as we talked about both of these races yesterday, clearly no 3-year-old stepped to the forefront via the Triple Crown season. I'm not sure. I'm still feeling Rich Strike was kind of fluky. We'll see. His game plan is going to be the Travers. An article came out, I think it was the Racing Form the past couple of days, where it looks like he's just going to work up to the Travers, Belmont to Travers. So we'll see if he can rebound off the disappointment in the Belmont after the win in the Derby, but I'm not convinced. Now, early voting, I like early voting. Mo Donegal, who won the Belmont, it came out yesterday. Dave Grenig tweeted out in the middle of the afternoon, I think, the news. Mo Donegal had a little bit of a bone bruise, so he's going to be on the sidelines, unfortunately, for 60 days. So it may be tough for him to play into that 3-year-old scene. It will be impossible over the summer, and I think that's where things will start to define themselves. Jim Dandy, Haskell, Travers. And as I talked about the 3-year-old picture and the 2 3-year-old races yesterday, I thought, and we're going to look a little bit later, and I think it did play out that way, I thought the Dwyer probably had a chance of producing a horse to keep our eyes on moving forward, who is in the conversation. And this race, maybe not so much, although given who the winner was, there's a possibility Rattle and Roll could be a little bit intriguing as the summer moves along. I liked Rattle and Roll yesterday. I wasn't quite sure where the betting public was going to go. Rattle and Roll was 3-1 on the morning line. And the 3-year-old season has been a little bit disappointing after a very good 2-year-old season. But the Ken McPeak runner yesterday, coming out of a third in the Matt win, the number 9 horse, Rattle and Roll. And as I say, I was interested to see the betting public made that one 8-5. Kuchar, I thought, was also a potential player. I had that one down at the bottom of my mix, but that one winds up second. Red Run runs third, and Kitadan runs fourth in there. But again, Rattle and Roll now kind of back on track potentially. It was a decent little 2-length win over, a field that's maybe a little bit questionable as far as solid 3-year-olds this season. But, you step in, you're 8-5, you're in a questionable, a field of questionable talent, and you get it done. So that's kind of all you can ask. I haven't seen the number. I had some of the buyers, as I said, Olympiad had a 111. I have some of the other buyers on the day, but I haven't seen all the buyers from the performances. So I'm not quite sure what this one got, and we'll kind of reserve total judgment until we see that. But probably a good enough performance that they could, think about moving to one of those bigger stakes of this summer. And, then a good performance there definitely moves Rattle and Roll into the conversation. But it was also the kind of performance, and he's had the kind of season where they may just be kind of picking their spots a little bit. And so we'll see what Kenny McPeak does. But it was a nice win yesterday in the American Derby down at Churchill. And again, it was a nice win, particularly because it kind of got back and validated what this horse had done a little bit as a 2-year-old. And so far in the 3-year-old season, that hadn't been the case with Rattle and Roll. Finally, stakes action yesterday at Churchill. It's the Tepin, scratched down to a 4-horse field. Joe Christofek and I talked about this yesterday, and we were both kind of saying, literally, master the obvious in here, because it does look like Wicked Halo has the edge. 4-horse field, Wicked Halo, Tyler Gaffleone on board for Steve Asmussen, coming out of a win previously in the Leslie's Lady right here at Churchill Downs. Seemed in good form, hot connections down there. Wicked Halo The number 4 horse got it done, got it done pretty easily, as well as the 30 cent to the dollar favorite. So, there's not a whole lot jumping off the page here at you. These are 3-year-old fillies that went a mile, and Wicked Halo, as I say, looked like the one you can see there, was bet like the one, and won like the one. I mean, there was no there was no suspense before, during, or after, really, here, with Wicked Halo stepping up. Now, it is a Steve Asmussen runner. Again, I don't know if this 3-year-old filly belongs with the upper echelon in that division, so we'll see if this one shows up at Saratoga, or maybe picks some other spots. But again, it is an Asmussen runner, and he will certainly be in Saratoga, so we will see what's up next for her. But it was a nice win yesterday, but how impressive, because she was supposed to, and she did. Let's go over to Gulfstream. We had Brian Nadeau on yesterday talking about the 2 stakes down at Gulfstream, and it was Summit of Speed Day with a couple of nice sprint stakes. And we talked about the Smile Sprint yesterday, Brian and I pulled up the February Gulfstream Park Sprint, where Drain the Clock had run second, but had done it with a 102 buyer. So I said, with that buyer, maybe that was his best race. It certainly number-wise it was, and I think a lot of people are going to look at the number. And as Brian mentioned, Drain the Clock, a Grade 1 winner, won the Woody Stevens last year. I thought the betting public would be all over Drain the Clock. But I said, if you take out that triple-digit buyer performance, he kind of matches up with the field. And Brian agreed with that, and he said, because of that, I'm going to tilt towards Willie Boy, because coming back from Dubai and a kind of a disappointing performance in Dubai for Drain the Clock, maybe this was the day to take that shot against. And Brian was right, but more interestingly, as I say, I thought the betting public would be all over Drain the Clock. Willie Boy is the number 6 horse here, does get it done, and not only gets it done at 4-5, the same odds as Drain the Clock, but because of the betting, Willie Boy was the favorite. So I was a little shocked there. Pudding runs second, Absolute Grit third, number 3, Drain the Clock, no better than 4th. So hats off to the betting public for getting it right. On the morning line, it was 6-5 for Drain the Clock versus 5-2 for Willie Boy. I can make the case that, as I say, for me, draw a line through the triple-digit performance from Drain the Clock, and he's right with the field. So I can make the case that the morning line should have been closer, but boy, I did not see Willie Boy going off as the favorite. As I say, hats off to the betting public for getting that right. Willie Boy certainly has shown an affinity for Gulfstream. 8 starts now at Gulfstream and 5 wins. Chantal Sutherland was on board, so congratulations to her. She's been on board in all 3 of the horses' starts this year, and they've been not just 3 wins, 3 nice wins. Started the season with an optional claiming win over at Tampa, won by daylight, just about 8 lengths. Then came back and to Gulfstream, was in a state-bred stake in the last race, won that by daylight, and then steps into graded company, the Grade 3 Smile yesterday, and Willie Boy getting it done. And it'd be interesting to see, if they start shopping around for some bigger and better sprint stakes races at various tracks around the country, potentially Saratoga. We'll see. I didn't read any follow-ups on where the next start may be, but clearly they have a talented sprinter. And more sprint action yesterday at Gulfstream. And Brian and I both kind of agreed in the Princess Rooney, Cece was going to be the one to beat. Between the 2 favorites, the 2 anticipated favorites, we both were kind of saying Cece was the more likely winner as opposed to Drain the Clock. And as I say, Drain the Clock eventually was not favored. But Cece goes off at 2-5, the 5 horse here. And, she was coming out of a 3rd in the Apple Blossom. She won the Azeri. So the question mark would be how sharp would she be cutting back off the two-turn races at Oaklawn? Well, she defends her championship. She won this race last year. She does it again. She does it stylishly. Cece by a chart margin of 6.5 lengths. Victor Espinoza in for the ride. And again, kind of took control going into the lane and just ran away from this bunch. Spirit wins second, Make Mischief third. Make Mischief, nice little New York bred for Mark Cassie. Was in the hunt, was making the early pace, but then it got past and still wound up third. So it was nice, graded stakes placing for the New York bred. So no argument with the shot they took down there for the New York bred Make Mischief, but CC just proved to be too good in the Princess Rooney yesterday. All right, let's take a look at a couple more out-of-town stakes. At Delaware yesterday was Delaware Oaks Day. And Delaware Oaks Day typically will produce some runners that we see up at Saratoga, if not the Oaks itself, the Kent, the Turf Stake can produce some runners that we'll see up at Saratoga. We'll see how that plays out this year. But the Delaware Oaks yesterday, Shotgun Hottie was favored, came in for Bill Morey off of third place in the Gazelle at Aqueduct in April. So that horse went off as the 5-2 favorite. Also at 5-2, though, was Midnight Stroll. Shotgun Hottie favored because of the betting pool, but they were both 5-2. Midnight Stroll was coming out of a disappointing effort in the Black Eyed Susan. Two races just before that down at Tampa, though, were very good. So maybe just a little bit overmatched in the Black Eyed Susan. But yesterday in the Delaware Oaks, Midnight Stroll rebounds and gets back to what we saw down at Delaware. Midnight Stroll, the 2-horse, Shotgun Hottie, the 3-horse, Morning Matcha, the 5, winds up running third in here. And Morning Matcha is a horse with some stakes experience also, but no match for the top 2. And this is a nice ding-dong battle. These potentially could be two nice 3-year-old fillies. Again, are these the kind that are going to square off against some of the better in the division? They might try, and Shotgun Hottie did try in the last start, and the Gazelle was behind Venti Valentine and Nostalgic. So it won't shock me if they try again. I don't know. Again, that was a nice run from both of them yesterday. I think they're two nice 3-year-old fillies. I don't know if they're two nice 3-year-old fillies at the upper echelon, but we'll see where they go next coming out of this performance. Also on the card yesterday at Delaware Park, it was the aforementioned Kent for 3-year-olds on the turf. And as I say, it's not unusual to see horses come out of this stake down at Delaware and show up at Saratoga, and I would think the potential is certainly there for the winner. The winner here is going to be Main Event. And I say the potential is there to see this one up at Saratoga. It's trained by George Weaver. George, of course, races up at Saratoga. This is a horse who has shown a little bit of ability in this subdivision I like of 3-year-olds on the turf. Won the Cutler Bay down at Gulfstream, 2-back. Tried the American Turf at Churchill on Derby weekend. Didn't fare too well there, but rebounded nicely yesterday in the Kent. Main Event, the number 6 horse, went off as the 3rd choice at 4-1. The favorite was Elizar, the number 3. Christophe Clement runner for Michael Dubb and Company, who had won over in France in the career debut and then came to the United States and ran 6th in the Pennine Ridge. So this was only the 3rd career start for number 3 Elizar. And not a bad effort. Number 9, Tommy B finishes 3rd. Again, with Tommy B going out for Brad Cox, and Tommy B subsequently beaten over a couple of lengths. So we'll see what's next for that one. But I thought the first 2 were pretty good. Again, Main Event being a George Weaver horse to win the Cutler Bay 2-back, then rebounds off the disappointing effort in the American Turf to win yesterday. So as I say, George Weaver, potentially see that one with Hall of Fame, perhaps with the 3-year-olds on the turf. But Elizar, I think, also being only the 3rd career start, 2nd start in the United States, thought that horse ran well enough to keep our eyes on in that 3-year-old turf subdivision as well. So again, there was some nice stakes action from around the country, some very nice stakes action from around the country yesterday that you would have to think will play into Saratoga, certainly. At least some of those, definitely. So again, keep your eyes open. I've been saying all along, I think the various divisions this year are playing out really nicely, and really nicely with connections we can expect up at Saratoga. So I think some of the stakes action up there is going to be very, very good. All right, let's take a break. Again, we got to have Bob Ehalt coming up in a few to talk a little New York stakes action from yesterday, the Dwyer and the Nehru. But before we do that, maybe we'll give some thoughts on racing this afternoon at Belmont Park. Again, I won't be in for OTB Live, but you can go check out the one sheet at the website, pick up the picks in that fashion. But we'll come back, maybe just do a little quick run through the late pick 4 at Belmont this afternoon. So stay tuned. We'll come back. A little handicapping after the break, and then a few minutes after that, Bob Ehalt, and we'll recap some of the New York Stakes action. Stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. Here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Barbara. These two arch-rivals hang ahead with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back. I do want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship of some of the programming during the Royal Palm Meet. Always appreciate their support. So Royal Palm Meet going on April through September at Gulfstream Park. Again, appreciate their sponsorship of some of the programming and events here at Capital OTB TV. All right, we'll jump in and as I say, just in the few minutes we have here before we're joined by Bob Ehalt, we'll take a quick look at the late pick 4 at Belmont, and I just checked. No scratches that I saw at this point, so this is pre-scratches. And as I said, don't forget you can go to the website and pick up the selections for this afternoon. The one sheet, I have Belmont and Monmouth. Brian had Churchill, so you'll be able to get 3 tracks of selections. And if you were paying attention yesterday, and I ran into a patron and I said I would give a shout out, patron who was watching and listening and benefited from the top pick in the finale yesterday, Jerry the Nipper at $17 and change, and had a couple of our underneath horses. A couple of them were both the exact and the triple. It was which were nice in both categories. With Jerry the Nipper winning the last race, snuck away Pletcher horse that looked like the best horse in the race, but had only been on the dirt and was now trying the turf, but had a couple of decent little turf works up at Saratoga, so I kind of put my trust in Todd Pletcher, and again, thinking, the best horse, and I think he absolutely was the best horse, because kind of got pushed all the way around, got passed a little bit on the turn, was on the rails, it was benefiting there, then came into the stretch, and then it looked like the cavalry charge might swallow him up, but no, held on nicely. So Jerry the Nipper got it done on the sheet yesterday. And then I tweeted out some Churchill picks in the sheet. The Belmont picks had a positive ROI. The Churchill picks had a positive ROI. And I will admit, I treaded water a little bit yesterday over at Monmouth, where the last couple of weeks I was doing all right. But again, congratulations. When I went out in the front, there was a lucky patron who made the most of Jerry the Nipper yesterday, so that's always good to hear. All right, let's jump in. Again, we'll just kind of quickly go through this sequence. Sixth race at Belmont today kicks off the pick four. I have a 2, 1, 5, and 4. Looney Sema on top. Short price on the morning line, and we'll see. If this one, and it won't shock me, it's just, boy, the betting public lands on some of these horses and just pounds them. So it won't shock me if this horse all of a sudden starts to kick down. I think the race is maybe closer than that, though. The horse that clearly has the edge is Looney Sema. The last 3 races, the numbers thrown, 3 second-place finishes, but they are second-place finishes, so a little bit camera shy. Has the edge, most likely winner, but I think on the hill, likely race, maybe there's still some upside. Seemed to get a little wake-up call last time as far as the number moving forward. Got a little experience at this level, and again, being lightly raced, could jump forward from the latest, and that will put that one right in the thick of things. And Defusky Island in the 3rd spot, comes back with a first-time gelding symbol off the claim, and moving into the Charlie Baker barn. I thought this one was a little bit intriguing. Class-wise, I'm not totally sure how this one's going to class up with this bunch. Most of the races have been in state-bred company. Last time was in an open claimer. This is kind of a salty starter allowance. So again, I wasn't quite sure how the horse would class up, but I thought, I think we'll be okay with a horse that could be at least in the conversation. 6th at Belmont, 2, 1, 5, and 4. 7th race at Belmont, they're on the grass, 1 3/8 for optional claimers, non-winners at 2. Other than the condition of 1, 6, 8, and 9 in the 7th at Belmont, I will put Flanagan's Cove on top. 3rd start back of the season, a couple of even starts so far, a 2nd 2 back, a 3rd last time. I just thought the setup looks really interesting here. 3rd start back, ran well in the 1st start, ran okay last time. The numbers matched up, but did run 3rd, and just might be ready to kind of move forward here. And we're looking at 8-1. Shug, Louis Saez, Flanagan's Cove, interesting to me. Higher Truth, going to be the one that's going to take the action. Chad Brown runner, even money on the morning line. Hasn't been seen since last year. Had either a kind of a stalking running style or ended the season on the front end in a couple of races before getting caught. So it's going to be interesting to see what the pace shapes up for this horse off the layoff. But again, one of those horses that's lightly raced now comes back, could have some still some upside. But if we get back to even one of the better numbers for last year, probably does wind up being the one to beat in here. Star Seeking in the 3rd spot. Started the career over in Europe, came over here. The first 2 starts over here for Todd Pletcher were pretty good down at Gulfstream. Came up to Belmont last time and clunked a little bit. I just think this horse is better than that. And I think that last one will darken the form a little bit. We'll get some value. So we'll put that one in the mix. 7th at Belmont, 1, 6, 8, and 9. 8th race at Belmont today is the Perfect Sting Stakes action for the Fillies and Mares going a mile on the turf. In the 8th, I have a 5, 6, 1, and 3. Love and Thunder. It's Chad Brown off a win to start the season. I think off of that race, this horse makes a lot of sense. 2nd spot, Messidor, who goes out for Christophe Clement. 3rd start of the season. Nice improvement, start 1 to start 2. Could be primed to move forward. And doesn't have to move forward too much to be very, very competitive. Jouster in the 3rd spot. Nice 3rd place finish last time in a stake right here at Belmont for the Pletcher runner. And overall, this horse is pretty consistent and pretty consistently competitive. In a look that's going to be competitive with this bunch particularly. So 8th at Belmont, 5, 6, 1, and 3. And we'll wrap it up at Belmont in the 9th. State-bred maiden specials going 6, 6, 1, 8, and 3. I'm going to put Street Czar on top. Firster by Street Boss, trained by Todd Pletcher. I think the horse the steady string of workouts, they don't jump off the page, but I have a feeling this one could be well met in debut. Oceans Reserve going out for our friends at Bonaventure Stables. I know there's some local folks involved. Bonaventure itself being locally based, Dan Collins and company. So we're wishing them very well in the third start of the season after having just gotten caught there in the last start at 12-1. So seems in good and maybe improving form. And then Sinful Dancer for the aforementioned George Weaver could be a player with this bunch also. In the ninth, I have it 6-1, 8-3. All right, that takes you around the horn for a little bit of a look at the late pick four today at Belmont. As promised earlier, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll do some more Belmont conversation. We'll have some more Belmont conversation, but it'll be a little more in review this time, looking at the two nice stakes yesterday on the Belmont card with Bob Ehalt from Blood Horse. All of that right after this. Stay tuned. Having trouble finding us? It's actually quite simple. Whether online or on your TV, it's never been easier to watch and wager on championship horse racing with Capital OTB. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com. There you can watch our morning shows, live stream races, and wager on our state-of-the-art wagering platform. You can also watch from the comfort of your home on Spectrum Cable Channel 1250 or Fios Channel 467 and win more with Capital OTB.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Birdstone is an outside threat. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone.
All right, here we go. We're in the last commercial.
Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. Here comes High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob Ehalt. These two arch rivals hang ahead with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the top. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Another nice day of racing down in New York yesterday with two stakes that will certainly play into Saratoga. And I thought who better to reach out to than our friend Bob Ehalt, who covers New York racing for the Blood Horse. You can also find Bob's work often on America's Best Racing as well. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, happy to have you on board to talk some of the New York racing. Talk a little bit about as Belmont winds up here, any notable, spring news at Belmont Park, trainer, jockey side, and folks we may look for up at Saratoga or that type of thing?
Yeah, it certainly has been it's been a high quality meet. It certainly we can't say in terms of quantity, but certainly in terms of the quality. And I thought, Saturday, we saw two horses who are probably going to be factors in two of the biggest races of the year at Saratoga, in the Whitney and the Travers.
Yeah, you would have to think both of these horses are now very intriguing players. And I'm just pulling up because I mentioned, on the human side of things, I'm just pulling up because I wanted to see what the stats were currently. One notable on the human side of things, and he's still there, he's still in the lead. Dylan Davis at this meet has been very notable, and I have the Equibase stats up right now. Dylan Davis still leading the Belmont meet. He has 43 wins. Irod Ortiz 39, Manny Franco 37. But I'm rooting for Dylan.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is, Dylan had a great winter meet, but, there's a big difference between being the champion rider at the Aqueduct Winter Meet and the Belmont Spring Meet. This is when the big guys come along. You get the Ortiz brothers back, you get Luis Saez back, and this year you had Flavian Pratt thrown into the mix to really make it an even tougher jocks room, probably without question the best jockeys colony in the country. And And then here he is. There's Dylan, just working away, riding great, hooking up with some good outfits, riding, at the top of his game. And yeah, it's a narrow lead. We'll see what happens in these final, 5 days or so. But it's certainly great when you see, guys like him or Kendrick Carmouche, win titles because, they're the guys. If you follow New York racing, these are the guys you see all year long. They're the ones who are out there, on those freezing cold January days who are out there riding and freezing in those silks. So I certainly think, it's hard not to root for a guy like Dylan to win a title like that.
Yeah, I agree completely. And of course, his dad, Robbie Davis, and the whole family of jockeys out there. It's been kind of fun to watch that all develop, and Dylan having a really good meet, so we're kind of rooting for him. As you say, it's close, and there's still some racing left, so we'll see how it plays out. All right, let's talk a little bit about how it played out yesterday, and you mentioned it. I mean, some of these stakes this spring have been quality over quantity, but the quality has been very good, and I was really looking forward to the Nayrud yesterday. And when I handicapped the race, I really like Speaker's Corner, and I thought, I want to go with Speaker's Corner, and finally I just couldn't pull the trigger, and I went back to Life is Good. And in the scratch-reduced field, we're going to watch the stretch run here, and it will be Life is Good, looking very good yesterday as the 1-5 favorite. Speaker's Corner, second, but a well-beaten second. The chart margin is 5 lengths. The buyer figure, 112. Give us some of your impressions. I mean, Twitter certainly lit up after it, and I'm guessing live it was even more impressive. Some of your impressions yesterday on Life is Good.
Well, I tell you, if you looked at him in the paddock, he really looked, Life is Good, looked to be really on his toes. You always kind of wonder, you went to Dubai, you got beat, you had that long trip to the Middle East, you have some time off. Sometimes horses never come back the same. I mean, we certainly can remember Arrogate from years ago, where Arrogate was being thought of as maybe the next type of Secretariat horse, and after winning in the Dubai World Cup, he never won another race. So you kind of have that doubt, but, when you saw him in the paddock, he just looked ready to go, and he certainly was much the best. Flavien Prat rode him very well. He didn't fool around with him. He took him right to the front. You knew Speaker's Corner would show speed. It was a question of what was going to happen on the front end. So I think Flavien made a good, decisive move early, put Speaker's Corner in a position of chasing, and he did chase, but he just didn't have enough. They're coming to the quarter pole, and he just starts pulling away and then wins just convincingly in an extremely impressive performance. Certainly the type of performance that's going to make him, I think, the favorite in the Whitney. Certainly, if you later in the day, we saw Olympiad for Belmont run a big race, and certainly I would think he's going to be a big candidate for the Whitney as well. So that could be a very exciting race. But, Life is Good. He was the top horse in the country going into Dubai at 1.25 miles. Maybe that was the Achilles heel. Was it the distance? Was it maybe just it was a kind of deep, tiring track at Dubai and Medan that he did like, that got him beat at the 10 furlongs. But, certainly at a 9 furlong distance, even though we saw him at only 7 on Saturday, he should be able to handle 9 furlongs easily, just as he did in the Pegasus when he beat the rating horse of the year in Knicks Go. And, as I say, when you have a meet where you see Life is Good and Flightline, as much as we won't, I don't know, we're hopefully at the Breeders' Cup we'll see them together, but certainly at the meet we saw that probably the 2 best horses in training right now, I think. And, as I say, Life is Good. Certainly, shall we say, looked as good as ever.
And I thought it was really interesting in your article in the Blood Horse. You had a quote from Todd Fletcher, and I guess I'm always intrigued by the kind of the nuts and bolts and behind the scenes and what trainers think and how they maneuver. And he said, and I can certainly understand it. it was something to the effect of when the horse has this much expectations behind it, you're you're just kind of sitting there hoping for the victory. It's not one of those races, he said, where you're throwing the program around and rooting and jumping. I can see where there would be a level of anxiety. It's great to have a horse like this in the barn, clearly, but there is a certain amount of anxiety that has to be tied into it. They're so talented, you just hate to see a non-victory.
Yeah, I think Todd encapsulated that pretty well because, as you say, it was a 7 furlong Grade 2 stakes. This is the type of race he's supposed to be able to beat in his sleep. And, I'll say this. I think Speaker's Corner is a very, very good horse. But, I was kind of surprised when I looked at the Ragzit figures on Belmont Stakes Day when he faced Flightline. It was a mismatch of the Ragzit figures that Flightline was a very superior horse. So, if Life is Good is going to be able to, say, be a champion, be maybe horse of the year, he has to be able to beat a horse like Speaker's Corner. And he did. And as I say, given that little bit of a mystique about, coming back from Dubai, the fact that he was beaten, that he didn't just get beaten nose on the wire, he was fourth in Dubai. You could kind of understand where this was a race where they had a lot more to lose than gain, and you kind of do come away with a sense of relief after you get through it.
Yeah, poor Belmont, poor Belmont. The Olympiad yesterday, I guess, made him feel good at the end of the day. But I said poor because Speaker's Corner now matches up with Flightline and Life is Good. Not just a couple of the best horses this year. They may be a couple of the best horses we've seen in quite a while. So unfortunate that he winds up in the gate with those two. But you mentioned Flightline, and you were down there. We haven't talked to you since then. Flightline in the Met Mile. Give us some of your impressions there, because that was another phenomenal performance.
Well, that was just really that was just in a sense it was almost like a man versus boys. I mean, I thought in that race, Speaker's Corner, they did everything to try to win the race. I mean, they made things a little bit tight on the rail. They just didn't let Speaker's Corner didn't let Flightline just shoot up the rail on him. Tightened things up, made Flightline work and come outside of him. I thought, really good race riding, trying to win. But that was not enough. And, I mean, as I say, when you saw the Ragzit figures for the race, it turned out the way it should have on paper, using their figures. He looked awesome. Now again, we got to see what happens. I think it's kind of an ambitious. They're going from winning the Met Mile. Normally you go Met Mile to something like the Whitney at 9 furlong. They're going to try to go a mile and a quarter. Be interested to see who comes out against them. Maybe will Hot Rod Charlie be out there to push him and see if he can really extend that speed for a mile and a quarter. But certainly, he's unbeaten. So I guess, right now you do have to say he is the best horse out there. But, you kind of wish we'd like to see him a little bit more. I mean, this is going to, it's going to basically be 3 months between races with him going to the Pacific Classic, which is now on Labor Day weekend. So, but he's certainly a phenomenal talent. And, as I say, that was the first chance for us on the East Coast to see him up live. And, he delivered, and he certainly was the goods that he was built to be.
Yeah, coming back off the long layoff. Unfortunately, he is California-based, because I'd love to see him up at there. I'd love to see him in person, but we'll get some nice horses up there, certainly, like Olympiad, and so we're going to have a fine stake schedule up there, but I would love to see Flightline. But another one of the horses that we're likely to see up at Saratoga, when I handicapped the Dwyer here yesterday, I said the 3-year-old scene is kind of undefined at this point. I don't think that the Triple Crown really sorted out who's at the top right now. In fact, if I was picking, I might go with Epicenter. And I think everybody is kind of a little bit undecided, as it's fair to be halfway through the season. So I think the summer, Haskell, Jim Dandy Travers is going to start to sort things out. And as I handicapped the Dwyer, I said, There are one or two horses, Charge It and maybe Nabokov, if he ran well, that maybe would step into the conversation, because Charge It had started the career with such promise, the second in the Florida Derby and only the third career start. And you can kind of excuse the Derby with the lack of experience. So he needed to rebound yesterday, and he did. 111 Buyer. We're going to take a look at the stretch run here. Number 1, Charge It. The chart margin, 23 lengths for the 3 to 5 favorite. Running Son of a Gun second, Fluid Situation third. So it was a very impressive performance. I will note, Nabokov was a little bit undefined so far, so I couldn't really put anything on him. But the rest of the field, maybe a weak field of 3-year-olds. So he was supposed to win, but he did it very, very impressively yesterday. Your thoughts on Charge It?
Well, boy, Charge It really, I think if somebody, like if you were talking about, say, a sports betting thing and they came to you with a prop bet, we'll give you Charge It over 20 length victory. I think you probably would have said, yeah, I'll take the under 20 length. Now, granted, it just seems something happened with Nabokov. They say he got nudged a little bit and stopped running. I don't know, but basically he was eased under the wire. But even if he had run a race and was competitive with Charge It, it would have been 23 lengths back to the third horse. So, it was pretty darn impressive how he won the final time. And I think, like you said about the 3-year-old, I would think there was a case to be made starting the day that, Mo Donegal was your number 1 3-year-old off his victory in the Belmont Stakes. Well, now he's probably going to be out for the year if he comes back, it'll probably be in a little prep race toward the end of the year. Todd Pletcher said with the bone bruising, he's not going to run in the Breeders' Cup. So all of a sudden, that 3-year-old picture is even a little bit more, up for grabs. The title a little, the picture a little bit muddied. And then Charge It ran like, boy, he wants to be the best 3-year-old in the country now. He ran so good, you kind of wonder, will he bounce off that effort? So, you kind of wonder, maybe will Todd bring him back and kind of let him get his feet back under him in the Jim Dandy, or does he just try to opt to take all the time straight to the Travers? But certainly, this was a horse that showed you great potential in the Florida Derby. Third career start. It was a good second. Todd thought he trained lights out for the Kentucky Derby, and then he got steadied, and then he came out of the race with a flip palate and needed a little surgical procedure that knocked him out. But boy, it looks like they cleared up that problem without any incident, because boy, he really looked great. And like I say, that race for the 3-year-old championship, it's going to be the Haskell, it's going to be the Travers, maybe the Pennsylvania Derby, and then what happens in the Breeders' Cup. But I think right now it's up for grabs, and certainly if a horse like Charge It could win the Travers, turn in a good performance at the Breeders' Cup, he might have done enough to do it.
Yeah, regardless of the field he beat, I'm skeptical of the field, but regardless of that, with the 111 Buyer, and you're absolutely right on the over/under. With the 23 length win, how many races are won in a year by more than 20 lengths? So you're probably pretty safe with that bet most of the time. But yeah, he inserted himself firmly into the conversation yesterday. Bob, go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you watch the race, it didn't look like it was going to be a 23. You came to the top of the stretch, and it wasn't like he was Secretariat out there all alone. He really. It was like everybody just did want to run in the stretch, and he was the only one who did, because, he was only ahead by, shall we say, 10 at the 8th hole. So, that means in the stretch he gained 13 lengths on them in the final 1/8 of a mile. So I thought that just, was something like, that was a race you had to watch to the very end. You knew in mid-stretch the race was over, but if you kept your eyes on the race, you were like going, wow, this, even while he's, not really being urged that, in the stretch by the jock, he's still motoring. So that was just a brilliant performance.
Yeah, I agree. Both of the races yesterday had very, very nice performances that, again, we will look forward to seeing follow-ups from. And I'm kind of looking, one of your articles, you highlight some of the runners that we saw Belmont Stakes weekend, Jackie's Warrior and Bella Sophia, I thought was very good. Those are horses I think we can look forward to up at Saratoga. I think it's been a really fun Belmont meet, certainly, as far as the talent we've seen down there, no question about it. And before I let you go, I was going through your Blood Horse articles this morning, and I would tout people a couple of days ago, well, actually, it was probably a week or so back. You had an interview with the new NYRA chairman of the board, Mark Holliday, and I thought it was a really, really good Q&A with him, and it was fun to read because he's clearly a guy with a lot of enthusiasm. He's an owner. He's been a fan of the game for a while, and he's clearly somebody who has a lot of potential, seeing a lot of potential for NYRA going forward, which is great to hear, obviously, for those of us up here at Saratoga. But he's also a developer, and it sounds like there are some really interesting plans for Belmont Park potentially in the future. What was your takeaway with the interview from the new chairman of the board at NYRA?
Well, I think he is kind of the man for the times here at NYRA because look, we all know very dear to our heart, Saratoga. That's in good shape. That's that's the premier race seat, the premier track, the place everyone wants to be. Belmont Park, it's getting older. It's in need of repair. It's in need of modernization, and I think having a chairman of the board like Mark, who is a builder. He understands the process. He's also a horseman. He understands the game. He does know how costly it can be to run a stable. Now, can he fix things? Let's just say some problems require a lot of work, and then not just snap your fingers, it's going to be better. You have to get legislative approval to do certain things, like in the instance of the building, they're still looking to get that bond issue resolved, which they're hoping to get into the next state budget, which would then give them the capital that they're going to need to do a massive, rehaul of Belmont Park. But I think when you have someone like him in that position, I think that's a big help. The previous, chairman really wasn't a horseman. I'm not sure how he could relate to some of the issues. That doesn't mean you can't, understand and address them. But I think when you're experienced in something like horse racing, I do think it's very, you understand, you know what people are going through in the sport, and I think you kind of understand what are the things that may not be obvious to everybody that you do need to fix, where they have to be fixed, and I'm hoping that certainly with getting some legislative approval, they can really start moving with the project, of overhauling Belmont, I know they want to start with a tunnel so that they can, eventually they're going to add a fourth track, probably a synthetic surface for what we've been hearing, and then just kind of maybe make the track, not this huge facility that goes unused, 80% of it unused most of the time, and get something a little bit more modern and that will be a better fit for these days coming ahead.
Yeah, and I think they've done a great job of that the last few years up at Saratoga with the 1863 Club, and that the stretch area they put in at the top of the stretch, that it kind of a little bit of an upscale area that was unused for much of the Saratoga season, so they did a great job of that up at Saratoga, certainly. So maybe we can look forward to similar kind of forward 21st century thinking for Belmont, and that's kind of what came through with the Q&A. And I would again tell people to go to the Blood Horse and pull up the Q&A because again, clearly the new chairman of the board, very enthusiastic. And as you say, being a horse owner, he can relate to that, but he sounds like an enthusiastic racing fan as well. So I think he can relate to the fans also, and a developer, so he has the business side. And again, it was a really nice article and a Q&A that went over a number of topics. So again, you can find that at the Blood Horse. Bob, as always, appreciate the conversation and the thoughts. We'll see you, about a week and a half or so, and at some point during the meet, we'll pull you over to the backside and we'll have you on TV from our Saratoga set, which we will be headed up to ourselves in about a week and a half.
Well, looking forward to that. As I say, looking forward to the meet and especially to see you up there on opening day.
Very good. Bob, appreciate it. Bob Ehalt from the Blood Horse, and as I say, you can find Bob's work also over at America's Best Racing, so you can check that out. And that Q&A is worth taking a look at. It came out maybe a week and a half or so ago, but you can find it on the Blood Horse. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for this Sunday morning of Racing Across America. And as I said earlier, this kind of wraps it up for the next week or so too, because as I wind up here, we're going to start unplugging and packing up things and moving up to the Saratoga set at Clare Court on the backstretch. So no OTB live during the afternoon during the week, but we'll be back in Saturday morning, this coming Saturday morning. Before the meet starts, we're going to, dry run, make sure all the equipment's plugged in correctly. And so we'll be live from Saratoga next Saturday morning. You can tune in for that. We'll also have a show on Wednesday morning, a week from this coming Wednesday, the day before the track opens. And then Thursday, about a week and a half down the road, opening day, we'll be live from Saratoga throughout the meet. It should be a lot of fun. It always is. Looking forward to it with our Clare Court set and the horses working out behind us in the morning. As I drive in the morning, I come up the street that butts right up to the middle of the clubhouse turn, and about 3 blocks away I can see the horses working. It's tonic for the soul. And as I've said the past 3 weeks or so, just going around town and being in the supermarket or gassing up at Stewart's or wherever, people are thumbs up, you're ready for the meet, and people are, as usual, gearing up and ready to go. And we are doing our best as well to get in that mode with, as I say, things shifting, our equipment shifting up there over the course of this next week. So I'm going to wrap it up, Racing Across America for this Sunday morning. As always, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, I'm not on this afternoon, but we do have selections on the one sheet. You can find that at capitalotb.com. I looked at Belmont and Monmouth. Brian Edo looked at Churchill, so you can find some thoughts on this afternoon's action. Should be a fun next couple of days. Today, tomorrow, the trainer battle down at Churchill is a lot of fun. That'll wrap up today and tomorrow. Last couple of days down at Churchill for their meet. We're in the last stretch run, another week or so at Belmont. But as we noted, Dylan Davis with what did I say? A 4-win lead at this point over Irad Ortiz. And also Manny Franco's in the hunt as well, so should be a fun battle there. Let me just pull up the trainers side of things at Belmont. And on the trainers side of things, looks like Chad Brown has things wrapped up there. He has 42, Christophe Clement 29, Todd Fletcher 19. So it looks like Chad probably coasts in for the victory there. But the jockey battle over the next week down at Belmont should be fun. And again, there is holiday racing tomorrow, so make sure you enjoy all of that as well. I'm Seth Merrow. This has been Racing Across America. We are going to turn the lights out here in the studio. Next time you see us, next Saturday morning, we will be live from Saratoga. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.